want to have a really short conversation today, just in dialogue. I had a friend bring up or share a video with me earlier this past week. As I come back to my notes, y'all. Janelle Monae had shared it. It was Sonya Taylor, who my friend Maureen told me today wrote a book, or the book called The Body Is Not an Apology, about radical self-care and self-love. And so coming back to Sonya's conversation that she was having about this little white girl, Haley, who essentially posted a video about her and her parents having a conversation about the value of Black life. And Sonya's space that she was speaking from on this said that there's something very insidious and something very sick about the fact that white people can sit around and argue about the value of Black people and Black life. And so speaking from a space where we as white folks are going to continue to address the white supremacy that has been instilled within us and that has come to take root, so we can slowly begin to pull it up by its root and to be able to get rid of it. The one thing that there's two things that I think are important to note about the video, or about just kind of the space that we're in with all of this. Is one, I think being trained in counselor ed and being trained in yoga, you have a tendency to learn bodies, and also coming from a family where the conversations that I've had with my family are not the types of things that her father was saying are not the types of things that come out of my family's mouth. But I have still heard things that are not up for discussion, is what I think Sonya Taylor would say, right? There's something very still insidious about that. And, I think the value, and the only thing I will say about that is that whatever way that you argue anything, whether they be bad or good people in all races, and criminals in all races, get it. However, it's the same type of statement, like there's reverse racism. It's just not a thing. It all stems from the same space. And 2 white people a day are not getting killed by cops. That's just the bottom line. So addressing this state that we are in terms of the value that we put on life in general. And I think that as human beings, as white people, we completely take life for granted. And one of the things I want to bring up about the video is, kind of Haley's demeanor within all of it. Like, now knowing that she's been taught and she's been given the facts about everything. And I think it is great that she was able to bring this to light and to have a conversation about it. But there's one thing that I really want to point out in it is that she's smiling during the whole thing. I think there are some times that we, especially in our younger years, there's something that white people love about war. And it's warring within family, right? It's a way to kind of like get under the skin, like, even that like statement alone in terms of language to get under somebody's skin is, and being mindful of language, right? That there is something very problematic in that, because I think we as white folks have gotten the concept of concept of pleasure has been very much twisted in white culture. And I think that that is a problem. Because I think that there is, for a long time, I think that there has been a space where people have gotten pleasure out of other people's anger, and where people have gotten pleasure out of other people's pain, and people have essentially associated that pleasure with power. And so when Sonya Reed Taylor speaks about sickness, that's what it is. That's what it is. And I think that that is something that we really need as a community of white people to address. Is that there is, first of all, there's no power in war. There is no power in pain. Pain only leads to more pain, which leads to disintegration of bodies, of minds. And there should be no pleasure in horror or terror. I think that Jordan Peele's, movie Get Out, is pertinent to the conversation, because I think it casts a light on people in terms of the horror genre, right? Is that people find there's a certain thrill in the horror and in the gore and in all of these things. And I think that speaks a lot to white culture. And I think that it is, we come from a lineage of people who used to rape and pillage women and children. And people were able to claim political and social pleasure and power and clout over that. And that's wrong. That's just flat out wrong. And I think it's these things that have been that we still kind of can see in our modern day. And I think the thing I would like to say to white protesters in space right now is be out here in solidarity in terms of your heart. Be out here because you love and care for Black people. Be out here because you love and you care for yourself. I think one of the biggest issues with white folks is that we lack so much self-love. We lack so much self-love. And I think, it's easy to hate others when you hate yourself. Mind you, vanity and narcissism is not self-love, right? I think that that's where white supremacy has actually led us into, is those spaces. But when we really speak about self-love, it is the example of, regardless of all of the things that white people have done to Black people, that Black people can still look at us and see the beauty in us. And we can't see it in ourselves. So those are the questions that we really need to ask ourselves, like, why? Again, this stuff is not our fault, but it is our responsibility. The shame that we carry from either action in this life or from generational lives past is something that we must address in terms of releasing. And we must take action, love action, in order to do that. So we must love ourselves, and we must love Black people. That's what I got for y'all today. I hope that everyone has a really fantastic rest of their Sunday evening and weekend. And if folks want to talk, you know, please reach out to me on DM. Like, I'm open to doing, you know, these conversations, and I'm gonna look more into like Kate shots. My friend Maureen had told me about her today as well. And, you know, I think a lot of us, you know, who have been in these spaces and doing the work are in the space of like, we are not experts, but we are at least willing to have the conversation. And that is from a space of really wanting things to change and really caring about people. So again, I hope y'all have a great night. I'll be on the mat soon, but until then.